Welcome to the Evening Review. My name is Charmaine, and joining us in studio is Charmaine Tjirare, who had taken the popular democratic movements to court for her exclusion from the parliamentary list. Before we go into that interview, a short break.
Just go for it.
Oh.
Yeah, you can go right into your interview.
Welcome to the Evening Review.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
You were supposed to go to Parliament as per the list that was submitted. You were not on the list. You were not on the list that was finally adopted, or you were not part of the members, or you were not part of the LPM, my apologies, not part of the PDM's members who are currently in Parliament.
Right.
How much of a bearing has that had in terms of your involvement in the PDM?
Well, let's just say when I went to sought understanding as to what transpired, it put my loyalty towards the party in question. I think I was supposed to be an obedient Democrat and just understand that the decision was made by leadership and respected. And because I went to seek answers, I'm kind of like the disobedient child right now. Yeah.
In terms of where you are, as far as the PDM is concerned, what is your involvement currently? How involved are you? How would you rate your involvement before that event played out, and now after, and subsequently to you and the other members of the PDM taking the party to court for what had transpired?
Well, I've been in active politics since I was 15. With the then DTA and now the PDM, actively so, all over the place, engaging, being the face of the party at times, you know, at panel discussions and stuff like that. But since that, I haven't been completely discarded from the party, but I'm not engaged, and it's understandably so. It wasn't an easy decision to make, taking the party to court, but I love the party the same, and I'm loyal to it. Yes.
Do you feel that there has been pushback? Do you feel that you are being treated differently, you and your fellow PDM members who had initiated this action before and after? How's the reception within the party towards you and your colleagues?
No. We're received. You know, when you come to party activities or you come to the office, the reception is good. You are still received. I'm not sure what happens when you turn your back, but I think we're cordial for now. And I think having done what we did, we're also we're not very in your face. You get what I mean? So we're cordial right now. We're not a big, happy family, but we're cordial. Yes.
And you know, the opposition in the country are often preaching to the ruling party. Right. We're always criticizing government for either this or that. Right. And for the PDM to have done this, whether right or wrong, how much of a bearing do you think that has in terms of how it is viewed?
I think the electorate was very vocal about their disappointment in what happened, so much so that we were lashed physically. So following the by-elections that followed, that the electorate didn't support us the way they normally do. But I would like to urge the voters and the electorate and the citizens at large that it was an honest mistake. I think interpretation of the Constitution is at the disposal of whoever is reading it, right? So I think we were convinced, or PDM was convinced, that it was legal to do so when it did what it did. And I think when the courts declared themselves or their stance in what happened, we realized that what we did shouldn't have been done. We still need to get to the point where probably the Supreme Court needs to declare themselves now, and that's why I can't get into it, because it's still at the courts right now. But yeah, the judges that heard the case, when they heard it, indicated that we were right and PDM was wrong, including the ECN, that is.
Not touching on the merits of the legal fight currently going on, given the fact that the Supreme Court is yet to pronounce itself.
Right.
But internally, what does this do to members of the party? Should Congress come up? Should another list be compiled for Parliament for 2025 and subsequent elections? What does this do to confidence? What does this do to just with regards to the party sticking to what ought to be,
right,
credibility of the party?
I think hereforth will be given the correct guidelines as to how to go about doing what ought to be done. As in terms of confidence and the party stands as to who goes on the list and when, it's kind of vague right now because imagine there are 6 that are in limbo as to whether or not they will remain in Parliament, and there are 6 that are undecided as to whether their court ruling that was issued in 2020 is to be respected at some point or the other. And there are obviously factions from within these people that support the one group over the other and the other over the other. So I think at some point we need a lot of healing within the party, and I'm confident that's still going to happen before 2024.
In December 2021 rather, we had an issue, or we observed, us in the media, observed an issue where Youth Congress was supposed to take place, was subsequently cancelled. Whatever the reasons are, we do not know at this stage.
Right.
Do you see other actors in the formal, in the more senior structures of the party that are getting involved in youth matters with a view to influence the outcome of the upcoming Congress when the leadership needs to be elected?
Well, the Youth League leadership will have to come in and declare their stance on that. However, as a Youth League of a mother body, obviously the mother body will be engaged with the Youth League. And there's a lot of misconception as to what's going on. These people are young and they're vibrant and they're Democrats. If you find a group of people together, you'll find people having different opinions, different positions in matters that concern them. And I think that's what happened. It happens everywhere. And people shouldn't interpret it as a division or a faction or whatever. It's just young, vibrant politicians having opinions, a difference of opinions for that matter. But I don't have a saying that I'm old. I'm not part of the Youth League.
Of course. Yeah. We'll continue with more questions and want to touch on the issue of the policy conference that your party held, but would like to go for a short commercial break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. The party, the PDM, had a policy conference where societal issues were taken under the microscope, where party decision makers were looking at policy formulation and so on.
Right.
Emanating from that conference, scourge of, want to ask, is enough being done, for example, to address the scourge of GBV in the country? Do you think the party is vocal enough on the issues of abortion? And we see this uprise in the LGBTQI community demanding for their rights to be recognized.
Right.
Do you feel that your party is doing enough to address the societal issues, and is it vocal enough?
Those are bones of contention, hey? It's when you are coming from a society that is very structured, right? And governed by rules that were set in place that were not understood at the time. As politicians, you also don't want to step on a lot of toes, right? Therefore, you kind of distance yourself from specific issues to not step on toes. But however, you need to have a stance. You need to have a position when it comes to matters that affect the masses, especially the masses that have confidence in voting you into power. I mean, gender-based violence, for instance. I know right after independence, as I was growing up, the government took a very concrete stand in empowering the young girl, right? I mean, there was a girl-child organization. Everybody was just empowering the young girl. They somehow neglected the young boy that needs to deal with the empowered young girl. And I feel that is where the gender-based violence comes in. We're not as cautious and as sensitive to the boy child, to the young man as well. And I feel the empowered young lady has become so vocal and feisty and somehow insensitive in how she carries herself towards the other gender. And I'm very vocal about where I stand with this, because no young man, I raise a child, a young son, and the boy that I raise is not violent. And the triggers that brew this violence in him to enable him to harm a fellow human being needs to be studied, right? We need to understand what triggers a calm young man like you to do something as hideous as murder. And I feel we're missing that point. We're not addressing the core factor, and I feel we're there, toying and all active when the thing actually happens. But are we doing enough on ground level? And I feel that's where the policymakers and the educators need to be very obvious and very deliberate about tackling how the boy child's mind is oriented and how he argues and how he reacts to specific triggers, for instance. That's where the psychology part comes in as well. So I think the party needs to do more. The government overall needs to do more. Because we can't have attacks, random attacks, and then we react when it happens, and then we go quiet. And that is what happens with Namibians. We are all over the place when it does happen, and then we go quiet until it happens again. We need to stop that. Let the healing continue. Let's tackle this thing. We can't lose young people because of the lack of emotional intelligence, for instance.
The other issues, such as the issue of abortions and
yeah. Again, a bone of contention. It's again a difference of opinion on who thinks what. But because we're in a democratic country, everybody is entitled to their opinion. That doesn't mean I have to force my opinion on you. But we all know that the abortions are happening backdoor. We're losing a lot of young lives, and wouldn't it be wise if the young girl had the option and the safety to go into a health facility and get this process done with a health practitioner present, rather than seeking backdoor remedies for a problem? We've got baby dumping all over the place, and it's not the recklessness of the young girl, engaging in sexual activities and getting impregnated. We also need to power the young boy that is involved, because in the end, the young girl is left alone to make this decision on her own. The parents are not involved, because now we're not creating an environment where our children are at liberty and at ease to speak about things that bother them, because now we have my grandmother, who's 102 years old, does not believe that a child needs to be killed. But then we have a 19-year-old who feels that, yes, I may have been reckless in specific behaviors, but am I to be caged in becoming a mother at such a young age before I, embark on whatever life has for me, So again, a difference of opinion. This is not entirely the opinion of the PDM, but I feel we need to be flexible when approaching matters of humanity. Yeah.
And then the issue now of women in politics. We've seen political parties, and I shall not mention, but we've seen political parties speak of zebra systems.
Right.
Are you satisfied with the progression made within your organization to elevate women?
Oh yes, PDM has taken an obvious stance in empowering our women, but we need to also understand that empowered women are not very welcomed in our society. You know, vocal, feisty women are not very embraced. So young girls are not too confident to stand out there and take their place in society, you know. It requires a lot of encouragement and motivation, and, you know, and this is something that needs to be done on ground level. You know, the parents need to work at building the confidence and self-esteem of the young girls, and not be made to feel as though they are not women enough to take a stance in a man's world, basically. Yeah.
2024, there's still some way, there's still a long way to 2024.
Right.
But if we look back to 2019, and if we look at the performance of the PDM, did quite well.
Yeah.
But there were factors that were involved. Fish rot, the independent candidate. Do you feel enough is being done to improve on that performance going into 2024? Also now looking at the recent local authority and regional government elections that were held and the results that came from there.
Right. We're not arrogant enough to claim that our fame or our 16 seats garnered were entirely our doing, you know. So we realize that, yes, the factors that you mentioned, that the SWAPO administration had a few glitches here and there, fish rod being revealed, you know, the independent candidates coming through, you know, and the list that was presented to the electorate. You know, people were confident that the electorate was also very tired and exhausted with the way things are, and we brought forth a fresh air of hope, you know, and we're very grateful for that. We are, and we learned. I think we learned. And from learning, you analyze your strategies, and you know, plan forth. And we've got a few tricks up our sleeves. And I think, having been the only alternative for years on end, we will retain our seats, and we will get more, we'll garner more, and confidently become the government.
From the local authority and regional council elections, we saw
a decline.
Not the decline necessarily, but I want to hone in now on the city of Windhoek. The PDM and other parties form a coalition to run the affairs of the city. Seems now that the coalition don't know where the progressive forces are. But from that exercise, do you think, how would history remember, or how would you be rated in terms of how you were able to influence the development of the city of Windhoek for the benefit of its residents? And do you think, and what are the lessons to be taken from there? Well, in closing,
I think having been this close to politics, to the nitty-gritty of it, and the dirt in it, and the filth in it, and the ego in it, and the self-righteousness in it, you know. I think once politicians embrace the fact that it's not about them, right? It was never about them, that they'll start seeing clearer. You know, if I walk in there with my ego, right, then I don't have the agenda in place. I don't have the mission as to why I'm there in the first place. Do you understand? So now it's an ego battle. It's about how I need to prove to you how I'm right and you're wrong. Do you understand? There are core factors that need to be tackled. But we're not going to go there because we're busy bruising egos here. So I think it's not too late for the city of Windhoek to redeem himself, for the coalition. I think I was naively optimistic for a coalition government come 2024. Because when things started, you know, it was all hyped up and people were working together, and it was really exciting. And you realize politicians are politicians, irrespective of where they come from. And we need to shift from that to knowing that politicians are servants of the people. It's not about you, it's not about your ego and your agenda. It's about serving the masses. What do they need? How frequently have the City of Windhoek councillors been to the ground? I mean, really, to find out what is really needed, what is of urgency right now. So, again, servants, you serve.
Thank you for joining us on the Evening Review.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in. That concludes the Evening Review for this week. Good night.